Hi folks and welcome back. Maggie and I are out in the woods today to do a bit of cooking. I've got a fire lit and Maggie's settled down to chew a stick. So I'm gonna crack on and get things started. The first thing I'm gonna be making is bread, so I need to get that organised. I need to get that dough made and get that on to proof. Just before I start, I'd like to apologise for any background noise like that. There's somebody nearby with some heavy machinery, a digger or a dumper or something or other, and you're probably going to pick that up on the microphone. You know, we're in the UK, we're never far from other people here, you know, and try as you will, there's often background noise, so I'm sorry about that. The bread dough I'm going to be using today is exactly the same as the one I used when I did my pizza recently, well, whenever I do any bread-based recipes, I always use the same dough because it works. It's easy to remember, and it always comes out really well. So the first thing I want to do is to get my Dutch oven over near the fire warming up, because I'm going to use that to prove the dough in, and I want it to be nice and warm. And then I'm also going to get some water on to warm up. I'm using about a pint of water. That's an imperial pint, not an American pint, which is just under sort of 600 millilitres, 560 odd. So I'm gonna just gauge that using the scale on the side of my cup. And I need that water to be just lukewarm. Okay, that is warm enough. If it's so hot you can't put your finger in it, it's too hot. So I'm going to pour half of this now back into my empty water bottle now that I've given Maggie a drink, and I'm going to make up a paste out of the yeast and the sugar. I'm just going to put that back by the fire just to stay warm. What's left in the bottle. Okay, in here I've got an ounce of white sugar, so that's about 28 grams metric, and I need the same of dried yeast. So these are 7-gram sachets, 28 grams, 4 pouches, 4 sachets, which is also an ounce into that warm water. Give that a stir, and what will happen is the yeast will feed off the sugar and it will all go a bit bubbly and mad in a minute. So just pop a lid on and let that do its thing. In this bag I've got flour. There's 2 pounds of flour in here, a pound of plain flour and a pound of strong white bread flour. And I'm going to add some salt to that, about a teaspoon. This is that lovely salt I got sent from Australia. It's like a bush salt with various other things in it. So I'm going to use that. Mix that through a bit. And I'm going to do all my mixing in this bag, or certainly all the first stage of mixing, just to try and keep the mess in one place. Right, let's see how the yeast is doing. Yeah, it's starting to become a bit sort of frothy in there, so I'm just going to start adding that a bit at a time. Pour it into the middle and then just draw the flour in. I've mentioned this before when using this recipe. It's dead easy to remember, because if you use the imperial measurements, it's all just wands. It's a pound of plain flour, a pound of bread flour, an ounce of yeast, an ounce of sugar, and a pint of water, and a bit of salt. So it's just easy to remember. Right, that's the last of the yeast mixture going in. And then that water that's been keeping warm by the fire, I'm going to start adding that now. Just keep drawing that flour in. Now, once you're satisfied that's pretty well mixed, you can turn that out onto some sort of board. I'm going to use my table and finish the mixing on there. Now, it's a really good idea to have some extra flour with you. I've got another bag here with some in. This is just plain flour, because different flours require different amounts of water, and I can already feel that this dough is a little bit too sticky. I can feel that just through the bag here, so I'm going to have to bring in some more flour just to get that to the right kind of consistency for this. Otherwise I'll never be able to knead it. It will just stick to my hands and make a right mess. And this is what we're looking for, a dough that is reasonably stiff, that doesn't really stick too much to your hands, that you can handle without it making a gooey old horrible mess. So once that is all mixed and you're happy with it, the fun part starts, which is kneading it. And basically you're just trying to fold it and roll it and stretch it, and that's what creates that lovely bread-like kind of structure. You know, when you break open a piece of bread, it's stretchy, isn't it, on the inside, and it's the kneading that creates that. So that's the next job, and you want to do this for a good 5 minutes. Just take your time. It's quite nice, it's quite sort of tactile now that it's not all gooey. Right, that has had its kneading. I'm now going to put this in that warmed up Dutch oven to prove. And what we're looking for is for that to double in size as the yeast does its thing, feeds off that flour and the sugar and everything, and it becomes airy inside, which is what we're looking for. Just to help things here and reduce the chance of the bottom getting burnt after my last video on making bread, I've got a little sheet here and a small grill, which I'm just going to put in the bottom of the Dutch oven, more for the cooking, not so much for the proving, but just to reduce that direct heat on the bottom there should help. While we wait for the dough to prove, I thought I'd go through some of the questions I get asked quite a lot in the comments. I thought this might be a good opportunity. I can just sort of do a bit of a question and answer session. One of the questions I get asked quite frequently is about permissions, you know, places where I camp. I'm lucky enough to have 3 permissions that I use. This, where I am right now, is one of them. Belongs to a friend of mine, and I do use these from time to time, but not all of the time. You can't just go and wild camp wherever you want in the UK, or in England certainly. All land is owned by somebody, you know, be that private landowners or the Forestry Commission or national parks or whoever. So it's quite tricky if you don't have a permission to camp. You've kind of, you know, if you're going to do it, you've got to take that risk. If you do get caught, you risk prosecution. So you need to, you know, weigh up whether that's worth it. I do stealth camp from time to time. You know, I get to the end of the day, I need to stop and rest. I'll usually duck into a quiet bit of woodland or something like that and camp the night there. But my advice is to seek permission in the first place. Find out who owns the land and ask. Another question I get asked quite a lot is about my wooden canoe, where I got it from. That canoe's home built. I built it from plans from a book by a guy called Gilpatrick, called How to Build a Cedar Strip Canoe, and he has plans for several different canoes in there, some big, some small. The one I built is called the Wabnaki. It's the second smallest that's in that book. I made a few alterations to it. I added the scuppered gunnels and I added bulkheads at the front and at the back so that I could have some buoyancy and to store things, keep things dry. Yeah, it's just an absolutely lovely boat. It took a long time to build. It was a lot of effort, but absolutely worth it. It's the nicest canoe I've ever paddled, that's for sure. If you're thinking about making a canoe, I'd strongly suggest getting that book. There's lots of really good advice and tips in there. I'd also steer you towards a guy called Jason at Trail Guide Pictures here on YouTube. Go and check out his channel. He's got loads of videos on building cedar strip canoes. He's a master canoe builder and a really nice guy. His channel is packed full of inspiration for the would-be canoe builder. I get a lot of questions about my family and whether they ever come out camping with me. Well, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll have seen Tom, my son Tom. He does come out and join me now and again, but you know, he's nearly 18 now and he's kind of got his own things. He's got his own world going on. So he's a bit less into it really these days. He was much more kind of keen to come out into the woods when he was younger. My daughter is grown up and left home. You know, when both the kids were younger, they used to come out and join me, and we used to have great fun. You know, go on adventures, and it was all good fun. But you know, they've got their own lives now. Mrs. in the woods is more of a Mrs. in the luxury spa hotel, really. Yeah, she doesn't really get this, but you know, that's fine. She has her things that she enjoys, and I have mine. So yeah, what I do for a living often crops up in the comments. I work full time. I'm a carpenter and joiner, so I'm in construction. I'm in the building trade. It is full time, and I have a family as well. And I run a Land Rover, and the little time that I have left is for YouTube. I try and get out as often as I can and film. It doesn't always happen every week, just because of the way it is, you know, with family stuff. We're also doing some building work at home at the moment as well, so time is a bit short. But you know, I do my best, which kind of brings me on to the next thing, and that's to do with comments. I have always tried to respond and answer comments, you know, even if it's just hitting the little like, you know, just to show that I've sort of read your comment. But even that is becoming harder and harder to do as the channel is growing, and I'm getting more and more views. I'm obviously getting more and more comments, you know, and there are just hundreds of them for every video. And I just simply haven't got time to get through them all. So I've made a decision recently that I will answer or respond to comments for the first couple of days, and after then, please don't take offence if I don't get to your comment. If you have any specific questions, it's probably better to put them in an email or send me a message via Messenger, and I'll stand more of a chance of seeing them that way. It usually takes me a few days to respond to them as well, but just bear with me. I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. And the last question that I've been getting quite a lot lately is, am I Richard's brother? Well, you know, Richard has made a big point of denying this fact. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Well, I think that's fair to say that's doubled in size and some. So, time to knock that back and knead it again. This second knead makes a big difference to the bread. So take your time over it again. You want to get all that air out of it. Just be mean. Bash it about. Knock all the air back out. Knead it again. You can kind of hear it squeak as you knead it. As all the air kind of escaping out through the dough. I'm bending my table here. You notice I folded the legs up. It just wasn't strong enough to get the amount of pressure on the dough that I needed to knead it. Right. I'm going to place this onto this metal tray here for the final prove, but just before I do that I'm going to just dust it with semolina flour here in an attempt to just stop it sticking quite so much. And I'm going to score it with my knife. Back into the Dutch oven for a second prove. It's really important at this stage not to bang this pot about too much. So just be really careful moving it, really careful taking the lid off, because you don't want to ruin all of your hard work and knock the air out of that final loaf. I think that is ready to go on the fire. The last thing I'm going to do before it does is just to give it a sprinkling of more of this semolina flour. Ooh, cool. It's risen a bit more. To go with my bread, I'm going to pan fry some halloumi slices wrapped in bacon. These were sent to me by Kim and Cathy, and Kim smokes cheeses. So this is a whole smoked halloumi sliced up, and she sent a smoked cheddar as well, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'm going to wrap them in bacon. I got the idea from a chef in the woods with Coco, the border collie, and he says that it is just delicious wrapped in unsmoked bacon. So I got some bacon yesterday from the butcher's, and that's what I'm going to do. Whew. Well, that's had 35 minutes, and I think I'm going to have to take this out and see. Oh yeah, it does come out. See how, yeah, I'm tapping the bottom, that's sounding pretty hollow. I'm going to call that done. No burnt bottom. That's good. It's light and fluffy. And delicious, just how bread should be. Here you go, Fluffy. Let's try the halloumi. Now that is spectacular. You really get that smoky flavour from the cheese. And it's a delicate smokiness, really nice. The bacon is unsmoked, and that comes through the bacon just beautifully. Let's see what Maggie thinks. What do you think? Nice? Well, that was absolutely delicious. I'm really pleased with how the bread came out, and the halloumi was just amazing. Thank you so much, Kim and Cathy. We're going to get things packed away here, get this fire out, and tidy up, and then head on home and take the leftovers. There's still 3/4 of a loaf of bread, which I'll take home, and the rest of my family will certainly enjoy it. They might not enjoy coming out to the woods, but they do enjoy what I cook and take home for them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.